So Tony, if you would like to kick off, thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Sue, for inviting me to talk to you guys. A little bit about myself first before we start. I've lived in and around Andover since 1969, so it's the biggest part of my life, really. And yeah, to start with, I was a postman for many years, but been a gamekeeper part-time for all that time, all my life. My dad was a farm manager, and now I'm a full-time gamekeeper. And I'd like to explain later on, you know, what gamekeeping actually does these days. I mean, most people that don't know are very, but what I'm going to do first is just share some statistics with you, which I looked up yesterday. And if I can do this screen sharing thing, you have to bear with me a bit. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Hopefully you can. Okay, yeah, good. So shooters spend 2.5 billion each year on goods and services, and I'll go into some of the services locally, which is going to interest you guys later on. Shooting's worth 2 billion to the UK economy. It supports the equivalent of 74,000 full-time jobs. Now, say 74,000, probably I think 35,000 of those are actually employed as gamekeepers and directly in the countryside. As you can see, shooting involves in management 2/3, excuse me, of rural land areas. So 2/3 of all land in the UK is managed for farming and shooting. There are nearly 2 million hectares of actively managed conservation and a result of shooting. Shooting spends nearly 250 million each year on conservation. I'm going to go into that a little bit later on. The sun's come out now. At least 600,000 people shoot in the UK, clay pigeons, live quarry targets, etc., etc. And there's obviously, you can see the next one down, there's a lot of people use air guns as well. I was very surprised at that number. It's probably because of the fact you don't need a license, although that they are changing the license for that. And incidentally, we have the second most toughest gun laws in the world. In case you're wondering, Japan is the strongest, but we are the next. So our gun laws are pretty tough now. It's not an easy thing to actually do. Shooters spend nearly 4 million work days on conservation and shooting stuff as well, and the 16,000 full-time jobs in that. Let's get rid of that a minute. Okay. Right, you've got me again now. Oh, the sun's not right. It's coming through my window. I'm looking out over what I look after, basically, so I can see Werewolf from here. I can't see Andover because Bourne Park's in the way. Okay, so what do? I've been here. I'm at Custodian, which is just out of your area. It's between Newbury and Andover. As I say, little place, 800 acres, with a small farm squeezed amongst the big ones. I've got Highclere on one side, even Fackham Estate on the other side, and a couple of other little ones down in Binley and stuff. So basically, my job is predominantly to supply game birds for shooting. These are not wild birds. These are birds which are reared and put down at 8 weeks old. And that's predominantly what I do. But another part of my job from the conservation side is we provide a lot of cover for wild animals. This is a landowner putting this down. And without those things, there wouldn't be half the birds they are. Where I am at the moment, we've got stone curlews, which probably means nothing to you. They're one of the rarest birds or migratory birds in the country. There are only 300 pairs in the country. And if it wasn't for the conservation work I do, those birds wouldn't survive. They would get, the chicks would certainly get predated. So I bang on about this all the time. I don't know if you've seen the film, the biodiversity film, which we've done with the National Gamekeepers Organization. It's about keeping the balance of these things. I'm not certainly about killing everything. I certainly don't. It's about keeping the balance, and you have to within the countryside with all things. So this place provides a lot of important habitat for a lot of red and amber listed birds and mammals. And without the landowner's input and our input, my industry into it and shooting, if you like, these things wouldn't survive. I think I think each year, as I said, 250 million pounds are spent on conservation by landowners. If you compare that to what the RSPB do, I'm not knocking the RSPB because I used to be in the RSPB as a young man. They spend something like about 29 million pounds a year on their reserves. So you can see we spend considerably more, and it probably goes over the top of the heads of everybody. Some other things I'm involved with, which might interest you locally. I'm part of Hampshire Constabulary Humane Dispatch Team. Now, what that actually means, and this is a big thing around Andover. I don't know whether any of you have ever hit an animal with your car, and I'm talking about deer mostly. Other things get run over as well. So it's mostly deer I get called out to. And the last thing I did with Sue was the Andover trees, which is fantastic. But the planners do not take into consideration where they're putting these trees in relationship to roads, which is a big thing for me. I'll give you an example. Picket 20, that development probably went up, I don't know, 12 years ago. And I took some photographs of that. Now, if you know the area, that feeder road that goes up on the A303, next to that is about, I don't know, 6 or 7 acres of trees now, which is fantastic, but it also brings in deer, and those deer unfortunately get run over on the roads. There should have been, a little bit more consultation with people about, what's going to happen when they plant all these trees there. So trees are a good thing, but also people are not fed. The planners aren't thinking about the implications of wildlife getting run over on the roads. That's a big thing with me. I do a lot with, say, Hampshire Constabulary. If an animal is still alive and it's incapacitated, it can't be fixed. And I do work very closely with Marilyn from Wiltshire Wildlife. If it can be fixed, I call her in and she can sort it out. But mostly, if it's still on the road and it's alive, the kindest thing to do is actually dispatch it. And you wouldn't believe the amount of animals deer that get run over. Another bad stretch is between Enham and Newbury on the A343. That is horrendous, absolutely horrendous stretch of road. I think last year I recorded 46 casualties on that road, just deer, the ones I see. A lot of them I don't see because people pick them up and take them home and do whatever with them. So that's another thing I do. And we're volunteers, we don't get paid for this work. Another thing I do is I actually, I'm the chairman of an association called UK Deer Track and Recovery. And we have trained dogs which can follow up from the roadside and dispatch these deer if need be. That's something else I do. Getting back to the gamekeeping and local people. So the hospitality business has really been hit by COVID, as I'm sure you're all aware. They've been shut down basically for months and months over the last 12 months, as we have. We only got in half the shooting days we should have, and I'm sure all your businesses have been impacted by it too. Locally, a lot of pubs, hotels are actually used by shooters for obviously dining, and also staying there. Gun dogs. There are 2 establishments locally. There's Howard Kirby at Mullinscote Gun Dogs, which is over at Crawley there. His business is booming. He takes a lot of business from gun dogs. And Annie Buckley at Gobblesway Gun Dog Training down at Winchester. She's another Andover girl. Shooting also provides employment, part-time employment for a lot of retired people and also unretired people with beating and working their dogs during the season. This gets people out of the house, exercise, and to be honest with you, for what they get paid, most people do it for the exercise and just being out in the countryside. What else? Look at my list. Oh yes, urban deer, that's another thing which I'd like to bring to your attention. I don't know whether you're aware in Andover the amount of deer which are in Andover, Cholton, muntjac and roe deer, and again they come into contact with roads and railways. I had to dispatch one 500 yards from Andover railway station a couple of years back, and muntjac had its back legs cut off by a train. So urban deer are not a problem, but people just need to take them into consideration, really. Okay, so sorry, Sue, you want to say something?
I was just going to mention, if you hadn't gone on to it, about the you have had some school children, haven't you, come to where you work? There's actually
yes.
some kind of links with education, because a lot of children are not aware really of where some of their food comes from, etc. Perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. I'd forgotten all about that. I didn't write it down in my notes. And I told you the story the other day. Last year we did something called Into the Countryside with local schools from Andover. And I was of knowledge that our children have in the market town of Andover, of the countryside. They had very little knowledge of what goes on in the countryside. I was astounded. You think a market town, small town, I know it's grown, that children have no concept really of what goes on in the countryside. Unless you live in the countryside, the children out here do, but the ones in the towns have no idea. And I certainly, welcome more of those days. And I was telling Sue a lovely story. We had a school with special needs children. I think they're connected with Portway School. I'm not sure. They came out, that particular class, was about 10 children in that class. And we had a lovely email back from the head teacher and the teacher saying how much the children had enjoyed it. In fact, one lad hadn't spoken a word for quite a few years because of his autism or whatever. And he just suddenly started talking and going on about what he'd seen out in the countryside. So that was a lovely thing. And but I was just blown away by the knowledge that people don't have of the countryside, particularly children. And I think we should do more. We should get children out into the country, see where the food comes from, whether you're a vegetarian or whether you're a meat eater, both ways. I think they should know. I travel to Denmark a lot with the dog tracking thing that I do, and see what happens in the schools out there. And it's totally different. The children in the towns and cities are introduced to the countryside and certainly know more about it. If anybody, I haven't looked at the questions yet, guys. Let me have a look.
If you check the chat box, Tony, hopefully there'll be a few questions in there for you.
Yeah.
I would like to ask, do you enjoy, on a rating of 1 to 10, how much do you enjoy your work?
Yeah, it's not really work, Sue, really, is it? It's it's a way of life. I love my job, and I don't ever want to retire. I want to do it as long as I can. I don't see it as a job. It's fortunate I get paid. I don't get paid a huge amount, but it's a lovely job. I mean, in the winter it's a bit grim sometimes, but you just put on a coat and go out and do your job. And I've been very fortunate during the pandemic, because of where I live. I just go out my front door and get on my little buggy and go about my daily chores. So the only thing that changed for me during lockdown was shopping, really. So I'm very lucky, and I consider myself to be very lucky in what I do.
That's so nice to hear, because a lot of people are, finding that their jobs that have been very stressful and that they're not enjoying. It's lovely. I think most of the people here actually do enjoy their work intensely and are very committed to it. So that's very good. I think that was so interesting, Tony. Thank you so much. Can I ask, where are the most deer tending to come out and be hit on the roads around this area?
The road I spoke about, which is the A343, that's between Andover and Newbury. That's the ones I get most calls on. To be honest, it's unmanageable. That particularly Bourne Court, which is the stretch between Little London Crossroads and Hurstbourne Tarrant. If any of you drive that road regularly, particularly at night, I have horrendous pictures, horrific pictures I can show you of deer passing through people's car. One guy last year, May it was, he lives in Hurstbourne Tarrant. Mr. Studley had a deer go through his windscreen, through the passenger side, through the back, and ended up in the back of his car. Now we're talking about an animal which weighs about 180, 190 pounds at that time of year. If it hit him or a passenger, he wouldn't have been here today. So that's what we're dealing with. We all feel very safe in our cars, in our little boxes, and we travel along at speeds. I know we got to get to places faster and stuff like that, but unbelievable the amount of deer that are killed on that road, and sooner or later somebody is going to be seriously injured or killed. And it's that stretch in between Andover and Newbury, just that whole stretch. It's a very fast, windy road, and people, going to work in Newbury or coming back the other way. It's mostly people going from Andover to Newbury actually, and then coming back at 5 o'clock. It's very fast, and you just sometimes you can't help it. I know deer just step out on the road, but I certainly think highways could do more. Certain stretches on the Bourne Park part of where the wood comes right out to the road. There's no verge, so if someone steps out, the driver has no chance of stopping at all.
There's one in Odeon where I came back from work one afternoon. I worked in a school in Odeon, and you come onto the M3 there going back towards Winchester, and I hadn't seen that a deer had been hit and was lying in the road, and the cars were going and went round, but I went straight across over the top of it and dragged it down the slip road onto the M3, and it was dragging along my car, and I had to pull over and get someone to come out and get it from underneath my car. But they're massive. Yeah, massive. It didn't do any damage to the car, but it was, the deer wasn't alive, obviously. But yeah, it must have come out from the woodland round there at the top there. Yeah,
certainly that development I spoke about. If you look at it now, as you go up onto the 303, past Picket 20, that woodland now is quite mature. It's been there 12 or 13 years, and the deer love it in there. It's a great place, and of course they're next to the second biggest ancient woodland in the country. So the New Forest is first, and Harewood Forest is next, and that absolutely stuffed full of deer. And they spill out, they become urbanized, and that is a fast road onto that A303, as you say. So if nothing else from today, guys, please be aware of deer when you're traveling on country roads, particularly on those two hot spots. So sometimes
that's
there's
a
nothing you can do.
Very important point, Tony. Sonia's also asked, hello Tony, do you track species and the numbers of wildlife in the countryside? There are a lot of grey squirrels, and I've heard red ones are making a comeback. Do you know about this as well?
I do, Sue. As you all know, the grey squirrel was introduced by the Victorians from America, and we haven't any red squirrels in this part of the world anymore. I think you've got to go to Dorset and Purbeck to see them. Red squirrels, there's a funny law now with red squirrels. So red squirrels and muntjac deer can't be rehabilitated by law. People still do, which I know Marilyn Wiltshire Wildlife does. She disregards the law because, that's the way it is. But that law changed last year. As regards to red squirrels, it's not so much they conflict each other. The grey squirrel carries a disease which kills the red squirrels, as well as they obviously are bigger and fight for territory. I mean, it's an impossible thing to do. We can't get rid of all the muntjac, and we can't get rid of all the grey squirrels. It's just impossible. You can keep the numbers down, but it's difficult. It really is.
That's interesting. And I see that Kat has asked a really relevant question. What exactly do we do if you see a deer who has been hit? And she's saying, where I live, we have to drive very carefully after sunset. And I think I've seen a lot of activity on your Facebook page, people asking about deer. And I myself, when a friend of mine, when we were in the car together, we came back from Esserbourne Manor, hit a big deer directly on the front of the car. And I made about 6 phone calls. So Tony, do tell us, who should we ring?
Right, yes, I should have said really. Phone 101. I know phoning 101 is a real problem sometimes. They don't answer and you cut off and you go through all that procedure again. If the situation is so that the deer is still on the road, whether it's dead or alive, it could cause, it's then 999 because the deer could cause a real problem to other road users. It's almost a waste of time calling the RSPCA. You could phone Marilyn at Wiltshire Wildlife if it's alive. Normally, if they're just lightly hit, if you like, and they move from the road into the countryside, the fields and woods, then normally they're okay. If they're still alive and on the roadside, then normally they can't be fixed. They're too badly injured. But yes, please phone 101. Contact the police. Hampshire Police, Wiltshire Police, Sussex have members like myself who will come out, and this voluntary work we do. We'll go out and assist the police with ending the suffering of that animal. But yeah, please phone the police. You're right. So many people don't know who to call or what to do when they hit any animal on the road.
I mean,
deer in particular,
sadly,
because they are a lot
yeah,
bigger.
very sadly, the one that we hit bounced off the front of the car into the verge, and we stopped a little bit further down, came back, and you could actually, it was unconscious, but you could feel its little heart slowing, and it eventually stopped. So it was really awful. But the most distressing thing as well was just not knowing who on earth to ring. I mean, I rang the vets. I sort of rang everywhere. I didn't even think of ringing the police, but actually it's incredibly dangerous if you've got one on the road or about to jump up and stagger about in the road. So it's 101 then, a 999 if it's actually on the road.
If it's causing, it could cause other road users danger to other road users, they'll ring 999 and they'll get someone out. Also, if the animal is still alive and not going anywhere, just cover its head. If you've got a coat or an old blanket or something in the car, just cover its eyes. It helps, a lot less stress on the animal. But yeah, and some statistics for you. The stats say between 40 and 74,000 deer vehicle collisions each year in the UK, and Hampshire has at least 3,000 reported ones each year. Goodness. That's ones that are reported. There are many that aren't reported because, like people like yourself, just don't know who to report it to.
Yeah.
Those that are interested, if you go, there's an app, very good app that the British Deer Society have, where you can log in your sightings of deer, whether it's live ones, if it's in a town, because they need to know, and also the road casualties as well. It's a very easy app to use, and you're just helping them. They're a charity anyway, and not killing organizations, so they're a charity, and they help them draw better statistics up about where the deer are and et cetera.
Perhaps
but it is a real problem. There are 60.
Yeah, you could pop the link. That would be good in the chat, because chat can be saved. If anyone's not familiar, that there's 3 dots in the chat window next to the file icon, so you can click it and save what people have done, and people have put their details in. I see Tim's made a very relevant point. If you see one deer on the road, there is usually another behind it, and I've been quite surprised that is so true.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there are 6 species of deer in the UK, and in this area we have 3 of them. So we have muntjac deer, which are very small. They're about the size of a dog. They're introduced in 1911 to Woburn and then escaped. And we have roe deer, which are indigenous. They've been here forever. They normally in pairs and become very territorial later on. But fallow deer, which are a lot bigger deer, they're the ones in herds. So sometimes one will come out and then you'll get 20 more behind them. So you're right. If you see one come out, then more often than not, there'll be another, maybe the offspring will come out after that. Yeah.
Martin has said, it amazes me how many people don't have respect for wildlife when traveling, even in the 40 mile per hour for the New Forest. They speed by doing 60 or 70. I agree, Tim got hit in the side many years ago, never saw the deer, but heard and felt the damage. So yeah, it sounds like most of us have some experience, unfortunately, with that. And I think it's worth knowing. It just reminds you to maybe go a little bit slower. Never hurts any of us to go a bit slower on the roads.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to find some pictures just to bring it home, Sue. Actually, hang on one moment.
Website, that website again to track the deer as well. If we could just have that again.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me, right. Hang on, guys.
Kat's saying she might have to go. Run over animals distress me deeply, Tony. If you could give a bit of a warning, especially as we are recording this, that would be quite handy. What I might do is actually, I will pause the recording during the scary photo. I think that's what I'll do.
Right, yes, I will.
I'm just
right, okay, I'm going to.
Thank you, Tony. Sorry, carry on.
Jump in here. Can I just jump in with a comment? I want to sort of flip back to a comment that was made earlier about the benefits of introducing children to wildlife, so that children don't think that meat comes in cans and in plastic wrappers. And after that grisly photograph, it's really quite appropriate maybe to just lighten the mood a touch. A good friend of mine was in the army, and he was serving in Northern Ireland, and he had a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds in his detachment. They were dropped into a field in Northern Ireland in order to do a scour and try and identify any hostiles. So we're talking about a bunch of extraordinarily streetwise, tough young men. They spread out into a standard spread so that they were swarming over a field. And suddenly, my friend noticed half a dozen of them come hurtling back over the top of a hill where they'd just been searching, running and absolutely panicking. And he thought, oh my God, after all these years of training, we've got contact on our first mission, and they're just panicking. Behind them were trotting a herd of cows. These guys had no exposure, no idea that cows are just curious and interested. Not bulls, they were cows. And so he had to stop and then just basically say, right, okay, get together, look at these cows. And this was a bunch of really hardened individuals. And this just goes back to the point that food doesn't come in cans, and it doesn't grow on supermarket shelves. And we all need to learn and appreciate the genuine value of nature.
So
Okay.
true, so true. Thank you, Nick. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, can I just ask Tony? Tony, you said that the children had no idea about the countryside. As a townie myself, someone who's grown up in towns and cities my whole life, I'm just wondering if there's something that I don't know. Could you give me some examples of the sorts of things that children didn't know about the countryside?
It was just by their questioning, you could tell that, you know, we showed them sheep, we showed them tractors and stuff like that, and they really didn't. They were really, by their questions, you could just tell that what they were seeing, they'd seen almost for the first time.
Right. Okay. So it was more kind of what I call basic countryside knowledge. Into This is a sheep, this is a cow, this is. Okay, so we're not talking about they couldn't identify different types of buttercups or
no. It was just
okay.
It
was really basic stuff that they clearly had not come across before.
Yeah, absolutely. I said, and it doesn't matter whether you're a vegetarian or a meat eater. They just didn't have much of a clue at all, and I was shocked. I really was. I grew up I know it was in the 60s, a long time ago, but I certainly knew a lot more. Growing up, and I was educated in a market town. I was just shocked. I really was. If you're going to be a meat eater, I think it's good to know where it comes from. In Denmark, when I go, they take a deer carcass into the schools and they'll skin it, and then they go through all the joints with the children, and the children cook it, and they see where the meat comes from. And if children want to make a decision not to eat meat and go down just eat vegetables or whatever, that's fine. I just feel, we don't do enough here. Certainly television doesn't. I get on my stall about Countryfile. Countryfile is a very rose-tinted view of the countryside, very rose-tinted view. It's not. Yes, those things do go on, but what goes on in everyday life, particularly what I do, you never hear them talking about gamekeepers and what we do. In fact, gamekeeping, I hate the word. I think we should be called, modern wildlife rangers or something, because it's not only about keeping game, it's all the other things I do, and a lot of things I do off my own back and with my own money. And there are many more of my colleagues around the country that are exactly the same.
Yeah.
And
I was
sorry.
I was going to say I was a few minutes late, Tony, so I'm sorry if you've already covered this, but I just wondered about badgers. Like, have you talked about badgers already, or is that no?
No, not at all. Badgers are a bit of they're protected by law, obviously. Yeah. And we don't do anything to we don't shoot them or do anything, but obviously there are culls going on at the moment. Yes, the cull is going to end, but it's not going to end for 5 years. Now, yes, TB is spread by badgers. I certainly think so. If you look at the areas that have had culls done, the TB numbers in those areas have actually dropped. Now, I don't know whether vaccinating will work or not. This is the government, you know, getting people to do these things. And if you go back to the bad old days when people in my profession killed everything that even looked at a game bird, the badgers were controlled to a number. Now they're not controlled, so their numbers are spiraling out of control, which is why there's probably more TB. And badgers do a lot of other things which we're trying to protect. Hedgehogs, I absolutely love hedgehogs, badgers, bumblebees, all those things. So the more badgers you've got, the more they're going to dig them out. But you know, so it's a difficult subject because they look very nice and fluffy. Let me tell you, they're as tough as hell, badgers. But you know, it's a difficult subject to approach to people that don't understand the countryside. You know, looking from people like Mr. Packham, what he says about them, it's a difficult subject. It really is. I certainly think there should be some control. Again, getting back to keeping the balance. I think you have to keep the balance for all things to survive. And that's why some of the things like hedgehogs and bumblebees have been suffering because of the amount of things that actually eat them. It's difficult, it really is.
Sorry, Tony, I think Kat's asked.
Sure.
Would like to
So sorry,
sorry, Carolyn.
Just on badgers, Tony.
Yep.
Is it the same protocol hitting a badger as a deer? Because
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, because I hit a badger a few years ago and he wrote off the front of my car. I mean, it was he did so much damage to my car, and it was, you know, nighttime on a slip road onto the A303, and I didn't have a clue what to do. So
absolutely, if the badger's still alive or you're worried, then phone the police. We are called HADS by Hampshire Constabulary. That's Humane Animal Dispatch, not deer. So it's everything.
Okay.
But one thing we'll say about badgers is they've been using those tracks across that road for hundreds of years. Badgers use the same paths, a bit like we do. And the roads have obviously got wider and busier, and that's why badgers come into contact with the roads, because their paths have always been there. And of course, there's more of them as well now. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was very interesting, actually, Carolyn. I'd forgotten about badgers. Kat, you wanted to ask a question.
Ask and Netta as well, actually, because I ended up working in the animal management and spa shelter, and I found the whole experience of how to meet animals really interesting. So do you have a way of teaching children how to behave around the different animals that they run into? That's my first question, and then I have a follow-up.
Do you mean the stuff I'm dealing with the Hampshire Police, or do you mean just contact with animals as general? Sorry. Contact
with animals in general.
Yeah. I suppose, yeah, just something I've grown up with, but you're right. Recently, 2 people in Wiltshire were killed, walkers, because the cows killed them, believe it or not. There's a lot of deaths with actually cows chasing people, and normally when they've got dogs. And if you run away from cows, like the gentleman was saying earlier on, then they will chase you without a doubt. If you stand your ground with them, then normally they will be curious and come right up to you, but they won't hurt you as a rule. It's normally if you've got a dog off the lead, that causes real problems.
The other question I had to ask was, I've noticed that there's some bumblebee queens around at the moment, and it made me wonder how I could make my garden, because my garden's a bee and butterfly garden. I've designed it specifically for that, so that they're coming in to check. How can I make how can I set out part of my garden so it's good for bumblebees to build in?
They tend to nest, and it's down to habitat again. I'm very lucky where I am. We've got probably.
I missed that. I'm sorry. You broke up. I'm sorry. I missed.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Now I can. So where do they tend to nest?
So it's all about habitat. So where we are, we've got probably 70 acres of permanent downland. So you need the bumblebees make their nest in areas which hasn't been disturbed normally for some time, in the ones in the ground anyway. So you need somewhere which is pretty rough, gives them a bit of cover, but it certainly needs to be undisturbed. You do get bumblebee nests actually in old buildings sometimes, but normally they like holes in the ground and excavate a hole in the ground, but it needs to be ground which has been there for a while. That's why you don't see bumblebees much in farmland. We all drive out in the countryside and see lovely swathes of corn. It's quite a barren place for wildlife, really.
So what you're saying is, if I took a piece of my garden and just left it wild and
Yes.
just kept on leaving it wild year after year,
Yep.
that I could actually fence that off and call that a bumblebee habitat.
They are more like, yes, and more liable to nest in that habitat if you leave it for a while. Our bumblebee nests are on, I'm looking at that bank from my window. So they're on this bank, which has been left for probably 20 years. And it is permanent, what we call permanent downland, grassland. And that's what a lot of wildlife like, particularly bumblebees. I think we had some tests done by some guys from Reading University, 2 girls from Reading University about 6-7 years ago. And we have more bumblebees and butterflies than any of the other 12 farms they did. And the reason for that is for those particular areas that we've got.
So there's a garden in a road which Lucy, you might be familiar, and I think Carolyn, aren't you Leo's mum? And we were walking past, it's a front lawn of a house on an ordinary road in the middle of Andover, and we noticed that the lawn at the front was moving, and much to our utter astonishment, it was covered in burrowing bumblebees. I'd never seen anything like it before. Absolutely astounding. Have you seen it too, Lucy and Carolyn? Do you know the house I mean?
Just a few houses along from us. Yeah,
that's right.
And the garden, it's covered. I've forgotten what they're called now. But yeah, my children know about them. Interestingly, talking about the children, they have them in their school field as well. But yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yes,
they're solitary bees.
But I know
that's it.
Yeah,
but they don't nest in a colony, but you'll get them close together, and they all come out at the same time, a bit like flying ants. So, but they're nesting solitary.
Yeah, I know that the people, because I speak to them occasionally, because they're wonderful gardeners, and I know they've left their garden that, you know, when they've been there a long time, but the plants still coming up are still the plants that have been coming up for many, many years from the previous people. And it's really astounding thing to see.
Yeah.
I mean, you're more than welcome. I can organise for you to come out in the summer and look at our 40 acres of downland, which is, it's so colourful now. It's been downland for 14 years. And now we're starting to get the orchids and the lady's bedstraw and the knapweed. And it's gone back to how fields used to be. It's a beautiful place. It really is. It's right next to the A343, believe it or not, but it's a lovely place. And any of you are more than welcome to come out.
We'll take you up on that for sure, Tony. Fantastic. And Tony has been threatening to become a member of the Natural Business Network, so he's not going to escape. Any more questions that anyone would like to raise? I'm conscious that we've actually been going for 50 minutes now. It's been so interesting. The time has just been flying by. And obviously it's quite important that, you know, all the people that are here today get to introduce themselves. So is there anything you'd like to wrap up with, Tony?
No, well, thank you very much for listening to me. I hope it's been of some interest to you and enlightened you a little bit about what myself and my colleagues around the country do. As I say, it's not all, yes, we do provide game birds, but we do lots of other things as well. A lot of it in our own time. And yes, you're all more than welcome to come out and have a look around at any time. Please do.
That is so lovely. Thank you very much indeed. I found that incredibly interesting, and I think there's going to be a horde of questions that will pop up at later dates. I shall stash them, and we shall have you talk again, Tony. It was very interesting. So we'll just move on to letting everyone introduce themselves. Is there anyone who's got to rush away shortly who would be desperate to go first? Kat, would you like to? We'll start with you then.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Kat Randall. I run Kiru Media. I do organic social media marketing. I do social media coaching, and I make videos. How am I today? I'm doing not coping today. I've had a bit of a tough old week this week. And What am I needing support in at the moment? I've got 2 spare rooms and I'm looking to fill them at the moment. So if you know somebody, a professional, preferably, who, and I don't mind animals, by the way. Actually, it's something I made a conscious decision about, is I don't mind dogs and I don't mind cats or fish or snakes or anything for that matter. So if you're aware of anybody who's looking to move and is looking for somewhere to go into a nice village with a fantastic common and really good neighbours, I'm the one.
Thank you.
And that's me. Thank you.
Lovely. And you've popped your details, I think, into the chat window so everybody can find them. Fantastic. Ruth, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, I think you're still on mute. I'm just going to ask you to unmute.
There we go. Right. Hi, I'm Ruth. I'm an artist. I've been a jeweler for a long time. I run something called the Workshop Gallery, where I used to do teaching, but COVID's knocked that out of the square. So I'm having an interesting time assessing whether I should climb out of retirement completely, because I'm really rather enjoying this quiet life where I just do what I like and I'm not bothered. But there's something in me gnawing away saying, come on, you can do more. And I did a Zoom meeting on Tuesday morning with a local I think it's the Artful Collective, Creative Connections, did an SEO for beginners. And that's given me food for thought, because I have basically got to start again. Yeah, it's quite an intriguing. I'm not rushing anything, because that way I'd fall over and get muddled up. But the Tuesday afternoon session did give me a checklist of things I need to look at in terms of what I'm trying to do again. And yeah, I might just scramble out and not be completely huddled away in my wildlife garden, looking after my hedgehogs and birds and stuff, and the rats, but I've dealt with them. I've made my peace with the rats. And I did some, I love drawing. The line is important, and I did an online life drawing session last night, which was fantastic. So I might just clamber out and have a bit more of a profile in this modern world, but it's gonna, I'm not hurrying, because it makes me see what else I can be, having done the same thing from university, you know, pretty well 50 years. And you peel back another layer and you think, ooh, I can do this. And it applies to all of us, because, you know, we never know when something's going to go bang, you can't do that again. And you look within you and find your resources and reshape them, and stay true to your own individual voice, really. I call it dialects, because there's lots of words around, you know, we know the sort of big noises, but if you've got a good voice, use it. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I've got my checklist on the table here, and it's giving me food for thought. But I'll keep going, and but I'm enjoying being able to contact again. If you work on your own, you're sort of locked in your own little haven. But sometimes, if you open the door and peer out, there's some good things that can happen for you. So that's me. The Workshop Gallery still exists as a name, but no teaching going on. I don't do any of that anymore. But I'm producing my work, which is it's rather exciting.
Thank you,
So
Ruth.
that's me.
So you're obviously
The
feeling
Workshop
okay.
Gallery. Yeah, I don't put any links on the pages, because, you know, the website is in a sort of state of well, I've just closed it down, really. But soon there'll be something, I think.
Fantastic.
Okay, thanks.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Ruth. Tim, would you like to go next?
Okay.
Thanks, Susan. Thank you, Tony. Good talk. Thank you. So sorry, yeah, Tim. I work alongside Federation of Small Businesses. So we help small business owners of all shapes and sizes navigate all those nasty regulation things. So whether it's contracts or GDPR, HR, all those sort of things which fill you with dread, and they really shouldn't, and they don't have to be expensive to remedy, but you do need to have some of them to have a sound business. So that's what we do. And then do you say, how are we getting on this week? Is that right? Or, yeah. Good. Yeah, yeah, all nice. Sun's out, flowers are out, you know, getting lighter.
Brilliant.
What's not to love? Right.
I see you put a few interesting links up on LinkedIn lately, Tim. Very useful FSB information. Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, no, there's always something, you know, there's no shortage of content.
Lovely.
So
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, help.
Lucy, would you like to go next?
Hi everyone. Hi, I'm Lucy. I have a home-based travel business called Lucy Melody Travel Counsellors. It's been quite an interesting year, as you probably expect. Travel's been pretty quiet, but I've noticed in the last few weeks I've had an influx of inquiries, so things are getting busy. You know, maybe not for this summer. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty, but certainly for later in the year and for next year. So I can help tailor make pretty much anything, and I can work as a tour operator and a travel agent, so I can either plan and package your itinerary myself, or I can use a third-party supplier, someone like Emirates Holidays or TUI, and book it that way. So you know, I've pretty much can help with any holiday inquiry. Whilst it's been quiet, I've been concentrating on my social media, but one thing I really need to look into is LinkedIn. So I understand quite a few of you use LinkedIn, so it's certainly something that I need to concentrate on. But yeah, it's quite time consuming. So whilst my children are back at school, I've been enjoying, you know, just exploring social media a bit more and finding out about, you know, how it can benefit me as a company. So, but yeah, travel, you know, onwards and upwards, hopefully.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lucy. And you're obviously feeling quite positive, being back into the fray now the children are back at school and everything. Fantastic. I hope
very
that,
much so.
you know, all the inoculations will keep up this nice fast pace so that we can all escape for a holiday. That's great. Thank you, Lucy. Martin, would you like to go next?
Me?
I'm Martin. I'm a photographer. I normally specialise in corporate, commercial and event photography. However, having had a chat with the accountant last week, I'm going to restrict that now. I'm going to concentrate on learning to take photos like a pro. So I'm going to be putting a lot more effort into that in trying to get people to, or help people understand how the camera works and improve their photography skills. How do I feel? I had a frustrating week. Put it bluntly, I took out a magazine application back in October, received one magazine, complained on the 19th of December that I hadn't seen December's, then January's, then February's, and then March. However, they all arrived last Saturday after I threatened court action. And I don't like online banking either. I get fed up with that. You can never get hold of the banks. Try finding a phone number. Unbelievable. But other than that, I'm fine. I've had my whinge.
Yeah, do you feel better now? That's the main thing.
Yep. Yep.
Great, love it. Well, thank you, Martin. It's been interesting seeing all your photography tips and things that have gone up, and I'm hoping that, you know, some of us will take up your courses, because you've got a variety of levels, haven't you? So
yeah,
all of us can improve our photography, I'm sure. So thank you very much, Martin.
I'm starting to put the next level together as we speak. So
brilliant. That's great.
We will get there.
Lovely, thank you. Kim, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Morning, everybody. Nice to see you. My name's Kim. I wear two hats at the moment. One is Serendipity Vintage, which is a business selling vintage, antique and handmade items. The handmade that I'm concentrating on at the moment is glass etching, which I thoroughly enjoy. I have a pitch over at Shipton Bellinger, the Delta Works, linked with Ancient and Modern. Quite exciting. I'm swapping a couple of cabinets for a larger pitch. It's exciting, but it's been a little bit frustrating on the practical logistical front, because having had some basic bookcases delivered, transporting them over to Shipton was interesting. I had a number of offers, but they were all too big to fit in cars and even one van. But one of the other dealers over there, they're a really great bunch of people. one of the other dealers lives in Andover and very kindly picked them up for me on Tuesday. So they're over there, and another of the dealers is very kindly going to put them all together for me. So it's a slow start. I feel a bit like a tortoise. It was all very exciting to get this started, but it seems to be sort of slowing down in the mechanics of it. But once the shelves are built, hopefully on Saturday, then I can get down to the exciting bit of filling them and setting it up and to look as I would like, and to be a sort of a smaller version of a shop that I would really like to have, but that's just really not practical with overheads, etc., etc. So it'll be like my little space within a bigger space. So that should be good. They're a great bunch of dealers over there. If you haven't been over to Ancient and Modern at the Delta Works in Shipton Bellinger, we're all keeping everything crossed that we'll be opening on the 12th of April again. So if that happens, do please go over and have a mooch and a browse. There's something for everybody. It's a really eclectic mix. And I'm sure you'd enjoy the experience, even if there was nothing that really sort of floated your boat. On the other hat is my PA work, which I'm glad to say I'm now back on 3 mornings a week, which is great. Although I have to say, setting the alarm and getting back into a routine was something of a culture shock, even though it was something I wanted to do and was moaning that I wasn't. But then, you know, you never know what you miss until you sort of haven't got it anymore. But it's good to get some regular money coming in. It's interesting as not having been there for quite a few months, the backlog and everything we're wading through to try and get things back on track. But I think we're winning, so that's a good positive thing as well. And as to how I'm feeling, fine. I think, like everybody, ups and downs, frustrations. I think, if I'm being really honest, my tolerance level is possibly on the lower side rather than the higher side, but I'm trying very hard to be good and keep that in check, but it's not always easy. I mentioned earlier that I seem to have been plagued by scam emails and texts at the moment. Thank you, Martin, for your input on that. I've noted that. But it's just frustrating, and it's really annoying because it's just really unpleasant, nasty people trying to put one over on us normal people. And yeah, and if I was sort of in Tony's business, then I think I would find it very hard not to actually shoot them. But then that's probably that would land me in even more trouble. So I'm afraid I'm a bit old testament when it comes to that. And as I say, perhaps when life gets back to normal, my tolerance levels will raise and I won't feel quite so angry about it all. But joking aside, on the whole, fine. Looking forward to getting my second jab, and yeah, everything to move forward for. So fingers crossed, you know, we're moving into better times all round. And as Tim said, evenings are lighter, clocks go forward. As he said, what's not to like? You know, spring and summer are coming. Great. Have people in the garden, eventually have people at home, you know, all good stuff.
Fantastic. Nice to end on a little positive note there. Thank you so much, Kim. And Tara, would you like to go next?
Yes, please. That would be lovely. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Tony, thank you very much for a really interesting talk. And yeah, there's a couple of things I would love to pick up on. One is I'd just love to say thank you to Lucy. She didn't mention it the other time, but just say thank you to the lovely Lucy. I've got a trip booked away for my friends. We celebrated our 50th earlier in the year, a week apart. We didn't manage to do anything, so we've managed to book a nice little trip through Lucy to go away to Bournemouth to overlook the sea for a few days. So really looking forward to that. Thank you, Lucy. The other thing is to say also about the social media. But any of the ladies in here that are around on the second Tuesday of the month, our spotlight speaker at Andover Ladies Who Latte in April is the lovely Debbie Watson, and she is a social media businesswoman, so she knows everything about social media. So Lucy, it might be worth trying to come along to that if you can. I will post the details for that somewhere. I'll let you know.
Thanks, Sarah.
Pop it in the chat.
So second Tuesday of the month, 10 o'clock in the morning. So I would like to pick up on something that Ruth said. about using her voice. As any of you that do know me know that I love to use my voice when talking about sustainability, about environmental impacts, but specifically based on the products that we use in and around our homes and for our personal care. So the toxins that are in your environment that you can do something about. And obviously, as your non-ex independent consultant, I can help you with that. I can help you reduce those harmful toxins, get rid of them, replace them with a far safer alternative. So that's for cleaning products and for personal care products. And from a health point of view, it's so much better for you as well. So you are killing two birds with one stone. If you want to know more about Norwex, I would love to chat with you. I've put all my details in the chat. I do actually have 2 events coming up this weekend. If anybody wants to jump in, it's just really, I say to people, just come and have a look. So I've got a WhatsApp event tomorrow evening. It's about 45 minutes of me just sending posts through a WhatsApp group. You can sit in your pajamas, watch a television with a nice glass of something whilst the posts are coming up. You literally don't have to do anything. And then this weekend, I've got a 2-day Facebook event going on where I am showing you how you can spring clean your home without harmful chemicals. And again, it's just within a group, so you don't have to be there the whole time. You can drop in and have a look. And I'll be doing mini demos and putting posts and videos and things up. So if you would like to join in on either of those, please let me know, and I'd love to send you the link.
Thank you, Cara.
Well done,
Feeling
Cara.
good?
Thank you.
I'm actually feeling a little bit weary today. I don't normally. I had my jab last Friday, and I'm just beginning to think. I know a lot of people have had like late reactions to it. I've actually been okay, but I'm just today suddenly feeling like this cloud coming down over me where I could just go to sleep on the sofa right now. So yeah, generally okay. Generally positive, but today I'm just beginning to feel a little bit not sure.
Well, I hope you read.
But that's fine. I can go and put my feet up in a minute. But it's lovely to see you guys today. Thank you. You're always a good click.
That's lovely, Tara. Thank you so much. Carolyn, would you like to go next? Oh, we're still on mute, I think.
Yeah, there we go. I haven't had enough coffee yet. Good morning. Thank you, Tony. That was a really interesting talk. I'm Carolyn. I'm a EFT weight loss specialist. So my question for you this morning is, how long did it take you to eat your breakfast? My guess is that it actually didn't take very long at all. In fact, most people tend to wolf their food down and then get out and do whatever we've got to do today, particularly when we've got networking to get to. But the problem is, if we wolf our food and we don't eat mindfully, then what happens is we confuse the signals that come from our body, and actually we don't give it what it needs. So there are actually 9 hungers that are associated with eating. And when we don't eat mindfully, we can actually eat large volumes of food without satisfying those different 9 hungers. So as you may gather, I am a weight loss specialist, and I use the latest research and 4th wave technology therapies like EFT and TFT to help you lose weight naturally and without dieting. So actually what I've decided to do is I'm actually joining the Kairos Clinic as of April 21st. And so I will be doing face-to-face weight loss appointments, which is very exciting for me because it's all been on Zoom so far. And much as I don't mind Zoom. And actually, when I think back to a year ago and how nervous I was with Zoom, it's amazing how much the technology has just sort of slotted into our everyday lives. But it will be great to be able to get back into seeing people face to face. So if you know anybody who would like to look at their weight from a different perspective with a cutting edge technology that they may not be familiar with, then please give me a call, and all my details are in the chat already.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Carolyn. I think with Easter coming, we're all a little bit thinking about what we maybe will be consuming. But yeah, mindful
Yes.
is what to be good. And you sound like you really have helped quite a lot of people. That's brilliant. And you're feeling okay?
I had my jab on Tuesday. I was fine for the first couple of hours, and then I crashed. So I had to sleep for a couple of hours. Then yesterday woke up fine until lunchtime, and then dropped for a couple of hours again. But so far today, I'm feeling fine. So
brilliant.
Hopefully that's the end of it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Sonia, would you like to go next? Just need to
Hello,
everyone.
Thank you so much, Tony, for the chat and the presentation and everything. It was all very interesting, and thank you for putting the website in for the deer, because we get deer where I live, South Wonston, where there's fields either side, and we get a lot of deer across there as well. So that's really good. Me cleaning, I'm about the cleaning basically. So if you're wanting time back in your home, especially with people thinking about going back to work, juggling family life, juggling free time, we're all about the domestic cleaning. Businesses, if you hadn't, it's the best kept secret, but the government have issued guidelines of getting people back to work safely, and people are nervous about going back to work. They've issued guidelines which have to be adhered to for workers to go back to work. And it's all about the cleaning then as well. It's the touch points twice a day have to be wiped down, and we can help you with that as well. So on a personal note, I've probably been spreading myself a bit thin, I would say probably. I love learning, and that's what I've been doing a lot of. I've been one-to-ones with health and safety experts, and I'm also doing some training as well. But I really enjoy that part of it as well, and it's networking and meeting people, but then it's struggling to balance that with running the business as well.
Yeah.
I've got to try and get a balance a bit better, I think, with that, or get someone to help me with running the business. That's probably the other option. But I had my jab as well, Tara, on Friday, and ibuprofen was a tip I was told about. So I came over, this feeling came over me, really felt lethargic and everything. And I took a couple of ibuprofen. It helped a lot, actually. Yeah, so give it a go. But I'm fine now. I mean, it hurt under my arm as well, in the glands under my armpit.
My earlobes have been painful.
Right.
What?
Okay.
And Audrey's not here to tell you about that.
Literally, bottom of my earlobes. Very strange.
Very random, yes.
Oh. Well, at least you survived, and we're all a bit safer now that some of us have had our jab, which is great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Sonia. I know that you always willingly give us our time back. Fantastic stuff. Thank you. I'm very excited to welcome two new faces here today. We have Tyra and we have Natalie. So Tyra, obviously you girls have seen the format. We tend to say who we are, what we do. And I think it's quite important at the moment that you indicate how you're feeling, whether it's good, middling, or not so good, but only if you wish to share that, obviously. So Tyra, would you like to go first?
Yes, I'd be delighted. Thank you. It's lovely to see so many familiar faces. It's great. In fact, I joined Sue's networking group a very long time ago, but the plan at that time changed completely. And then my MD asked me if I would join a social networking. So it was a natural just to ask if I could rejoin. She very sweetly said, well, all right then. No, she didn't.
For the other. Okay.
Sorry?
Sorry, I haven't muted myself.
Oh,
there we go.
Anyway, Tony, thank you. That was absolutely fascinating talk. I'm a great, nature follower, and it's amazing how one can always have something new to learn. So I'm really here representing Access Care, which is a live-in care agency. We're a small family-run business based at Goodworth, Clatford. We've all been working from our homes for a year. My particular role is recruiting new carers, and they come from all over the place. We get them from Eastern Europe, from various African countries, and as well as from the UK, and we look to they go through a registration a process which is pretty rigorous, and then what we do is we introduce them to private clients. I actually found my mother fell for the second time at the age of recently 96 back in September and broke her other hip. And she's very much that sort of wartime generation. I don't need anybody, and I don't want, don't even go there. But of course, she then realized that she needed to have somebody living with her all the time. Both my sister and I are single, so we have to earn our keep. So I was able to find a very lovely Kenyan carer. My parents were in Kenya for many years, and my mother now adores her so much she doesn't ever want her to leave. So she's completely changed, and she's laughing all the time, and she's so much better. Luckily, she has her full mental capacity, or more or less. She gets a bit confused sometimes. So it's a very happy thing. And it's not necessarily more expensive at all in comparison with care homes. So if you do know anybody, we can advise on the financial side. There is absolutely no pressure. You don't have to pay to just give us a call and just to make inquiries. We do cover obviously this local area, but we are spreading out, so we're all over the place too. We've got a couple of clients in Scotland, Cumbria and Cornwall, apart from sort of the home counties and all about. It's a great little company. As I say, it is fairly local. I do actually sort of have sitting on the back burner my own VA virtual assistant company, which is what I was trying to get going a couple of years ago, but as I am nominally single, I found that I had to find employment again. So that is called Acanthus PA Services, and from a long career in all sorts of different project management and secretarial and property management, and I also speak French, so that I was offering a range of business of possibilities. So that's sort of in the background, and I'm hoping one day maybe I'll be able to relaunch that. I think there should be a website just about available, but I'm certainly on Facebook. That's Acanthus PA Services. So if anybody would like to make me an offer I can't refuse, I'd be absolutely delighted. So from a feelings point of view, it's been very up and down, living on my own with two adorable grandchildren in Upper Clapford who I've not been able to cuddle for a very long time. There was a baby born in February, and my four-year-old grandson, who's the absolute apple of my eye. That's been flipping tough. But we did manage to get my son and his beautiful wife married in August, and they're now expecting a baby in July. So that's going to be grandchild number 3, which just has to be the best thing on the planet.
Lovely.
And I do have a lovely chap who hopefully I will see next week on Friday. I haven't seen him for 3 months because
oh my goodness,
he's been bubbling with his mum, and he lives in Old Basing, so it's just that bit too far to see each other. But hopefully Friday is the day.
Oh, fantastic. Things are on the up.
I've been working full time, and that's been keeping me out of mischief. So in many ways I've been lucky.
That's great.
That's me.
Lovely, and really nice to see you here. Thank you so much. And last but not least, I haven't missed anybody else, I think, apart from the lovely Natalie, who is another fresh face here today. And it's interesting that you should, be Access Care Tyra, and then we have for the first time Natalie here from Age Concern. So Natalie, would you like to go ahead and tell us who you are and what you do?
Hi everyone, so I'm Natalie at Age Concern Hampshire, and we provide care and wellbeing services for the elderly and those living with dementia across the whole of Hampshire. We've got 10 centres which, outside of COVID times, run sort of Monday to Friday, providing sort of day care respite facilities. So people come along, they have a hot meal, they get to socialise with other people, they get to do activities, that kind of thing. And we also provide personal care like washing, and we have hairdressers in this particular site that I'm in, which is pretty cool. So we also have services around that. We do toenail cutting services, hospital to home service. We, at the minute, obviously, because we're in COVID times, we're doing more home visits to a lot of the people that we normally see, just to make sure they're okay and see if they need anything. So this week, I had a really good week, actually. I've been the Easter Bunny, which has been pretty good fun. So we are taking donations of Easter eggs for so take out to people that would normally come to the centres. So I have been scrambling around getting donations of Easter eggs, and thank you so much to Sonia, who has donated some money to buy some Easter eggs. Absolutely fabulous. And I've been then delivering them around, which has been quite good fun, actually, going to all the different centres and meeting people, as in staff, and seeing the centres and dropping the eggs off. So that's been great. But I am still in need of more eggs. So if anybody would like to donate to help, that would be very much appreciated. So yeah, so I've been doing my Easter Bunny duties. All good fun.
Fantastic. You should have worn your outfit.
I know. I did think I saw some Easter Bunny ears in Lidl, and I thought I should have bought them, and then I could have worn them all week, and that would have been quite good fun. So I'm going to Lidl tomorrow. If they have some, I might wear them, and then to next week I might actually wear them all week.
That's fantastic. Well, it's really nice to have you here, because I'm hoping that we will encourage people to come along from lots of different organisations, and Age Concern is a wonderful organisation. And you know, we've had teachers come and talk to us, we've had doctors. You hope to get health education, science, and everyone involved, you know, because you never know where there's going to be a fantastic, genuine, authentic, helpful connection going to be made. And just mention as well that like Aubrey had to run away earlier, but all our members' details are actually on the Natural Business website. So those of you that have actually taken up membership, they can be found so on naturalbusinessnetwork.com. And there were several wanting to be here today, so they're very pleased. You know, they will be watching the recording, and hopefully we'll get an update from Tony in a little while anyway. So that's very, very interesting. I think anything that information that keeps you safer and gives you a connection to things. But I think we'll definitely be coming out to play with you in the country, Tony. It's going to be quite interesting to see where you actually work, and I'm sure that we will connect better to nature because of you. Thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything else that anyone would like to? Oh, thank you, Natalie. Anyone else would like to say, or any other news that has just popped into your head that you thought you ought to mention? Well,
just to mention, Sue,
oh, yes.
If I may, I'm only allowed to attend once a month. So I will look forward to seeing you again in about a month's time, because I'm working full time. You know, it's a bit of a privilege to have been given a couple of hours to join you, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's you know, and I'll look forward to seeing you again later in about a month's time.
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
We'll all be further along this COVID route and starting to I shall bump into Lucy and Carolyn, no doubt, as we do most days.
Fantastic.
So thank you very much.
Really nice, really nice to have a couple of new faces. We're very lucky. We've got quite a few people that kept popping out, but that was one of my aims, is that people will not feel under pressure to be here, you know, and even if you can only come for 5 minutes, then that's perfectly acceptable as well, because obviously your businesses and your families and everything have to come first. But it does seem to be working well, this, and I always find it a great pleasure to see you all on a Thursday morning. So that's great. So if everyone's happy, don't forget to save the chat. I'm just going to go in there myself so that I can save it, because there's been a lot of useful information that's gone in there today. And thank you again to our wonderful speaker, Tony Lowry. Very much appreciate you being here, Tony. And so if everyone's happy, we will end there and see you all again next week, I hope. We have got the Peaberry Coffee Man coming, but I don't think it's next week. But I'm hoping to get some samples out of him to send to you all before we have that meeting, so you'll get the full experience. We didn't have any pheasant feathers to stroke here today, Tony, but maybe another time. Okay, right. So I'll say goodbye to you all. Au revoir.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everybody. Lovely to see you. Bye-bye.